The Cleveland Browns didn't just make a depth chart change, they triggered a decision that flipped the entire franchise storyline. It wasn't quiet, it wasn't gradual, and it wasn't the move fans expected. When the organization announced Shedeur Sanders would remain the starter even after Dylan Gabriel was cleared, it instantly became one of the most talked about moments of their season. And the reaction wasn't just about football. It was what this move seemed to represent. Observers pointed out that the timing didn't line up with traditional NFL logic. Normally, a returning starter slides back in. Normally, one game isn't enough to rewrite the entire plan. But this time, reports and fan discussions suggested something different was happening. There was no quarterback competition, no hint of hesitation, no signal this was temporary. It sounded final. That's when the speculation began. Online chatter and analysts pointed toward the ownership angle. Some believe the buzz factor mattered more here than the depth chart does. Sanders arrives with name recognition, media attention, and instant excitement. And reports claim the Browns have struggled with fan energy and ticket pricing in recent weeks, fueling theories that business pressure may have influenced the call. But this story isn't just a headline. It affects real people in that locker room. Gabriel didn't lose his job because of performance. He didn't fall behind in a competition. He simply got hurt, returned, and found the door closed. At the same time, Sanders now faces the pressure of proving he's the answer, not just the spark. Every throw will be judged through a bigger lens. And overshadowing it all is the coaching situation. If this wasn't Kevin Stefanski's decision, and many fans believe it wasn't, then what does that say about control inside the building? What does it say to the players watching? This isn't just about who plays quarterback, it's about who really runs the team, and whether this move becomes a turning point for the franchise or another chapter in a story Browns fans know too well. The announcement didn't come with build-up or caution. It landed like a shockwave. One moment, the expectation was simple. Dylan Gabriel would step back into his starting role after clearing concussion protocol. The next moment, Kevin Stefanski stepped in front of reporters and confirmed the news nobody expected. Shedeur Sanders would stay the starter. No lead-in. No, we're still evaluating. No mention of a competition. It was presented as final. That's where this situation went from routine football to a storyline that felt much bigger. Because this wasn't the typical NFL script. Normally, a starter doesn't lose his job to an injury. Normally, coaching staffs emphasize week-to-week evaluation and earning it. But in this case, the change was announced instantly. Fans noticed the tone. Analysts noticed the confidence. There was no hesitation in Stefanski's voice. It sounded like a decision that was already made, not one he was still wrestling with. That's when the speculation ignited. Online discussions pointed to the timing. Reports highlighted the Browns' recent struggles with attendance and tickets. And some fans suggested that Sanders' star power brought a level of excitement the franchise badly needed. Again, none of this is confirmed. But when a franchise makes an unexpected move, people start connecting dots, looking for the story under the story. From the outside, it didn't feel like a normal quarterback transition. It felt like something larger, something driven by momentum, pressure, or even organizational urgency. Sanders had just delivered a win, but it was still only one start. Yet the tone made it seem like the decision was already locked into place before the next snap was taken. And for Gabriel, the message was impossible to ignore. He didn't lose the job because of performance. He didn't play his way off the field. He simply returned to find the role gone. It was a shift that didn't just surprise a locker room. It reshaped expectations for the entire season. The announcement didn't just change the depth chart. It changed the direction of the franchise. What made this move stand out wasn't just the announcement. It was the way it broke every unwritten rule NFL teams usually follow when it comes to quarterbacks. In most situations, when a starter gets hurt and later clears protocol, the job goes right back to him. That's been league culture for decades. You don't lose your role because of an injury, especially when the backup has only made one start. Yet in this case, the Browns didn't hesitate. There was no mention of competition, no indication that both players would get reps, and no suggestion. This was temporary. The move was immediate and presented as if the decision had been locked in long before anyone asked about it. That's what fueled so much conversation. Analysts and fans started asking the same questions. Why rush this? Why close the door so quickly on a veteran starter? Why eliminate the possibility of evaluating both players over multiple weeks? And when something goes against standard football logic, people start looking at bigger factors. Online discussion and sports media commentary pointed to what some believe could have influenced the change: excitement, publicity, and brand impact. Sanders doesn't just play football. He brings national attention and a level of spotlight that few rookie quarterbacks have. Some reports and fan speculation suggested that the Browns have been dealing with decreasing fan engagement and marketing struggles. And when a team needs a spark, organizations sometimes turn toward the most recognizable name available. Again, it's all speculation, but speculation doesn't grow this large without a reason. What many people noticed was that this didn't feel like a decision based purely on football evaluation. It felt like something bigger, something driven by urgency, momentum, or even business pressure. Instead of easing into the transition or letting competition unfold naturally, Cleveland jumped straight into the next chapter. 1 week of playing time became enough to rewrite the depth chart completely. And that's why so many people believe this wasn't just another lineup decision. It looked like a move designed to shift the franchise's direction overnight. The moment Shedeur Sanders was named the starter, the conversation shifted away from the field and straight into the front office. And that's because this didn't just feel like a football decision. It felt like something that may have been influenced by forces higher than the coaching staff. Reports, online discussions, and sports radio talk all pointed to the same. Theory, the ownership angle, not confirmed, not proven, but it quickly became one of the biggest talking points surrounding the Browns. Why? Because this move arrived at a moment when the organization was dealing with more than football struggles. Fans on social media highlighted the financial side of the season. There were discussions about declining energy at home games and a noticeable dip in ticket excitement. Some analysts even suggested that the franchise needed more than a quarterback. They needed buzz. And when a team needs a surge of interest, sometimes the decision-makers look beyond the depth chart. That's where speculation pointed toward owner involvement. Sanders isn't just another rookie. He has name recognition, national attention, and built-in star power. Any franchise would understand the marketing impact that comes with that. And when the Browns announced the change without hesitation, some fans believe there was a business element behind it. Not because anyone said so publicly, but because the move lined up with a familiar pattern: ownership stepping in when the team needs a spark. There's also the perception that the Browns have operated this way before. Over the years, some fans and commentators have questioned how much influence the ownership group has on major decisions. That history, real or perceived, added fuel to the speculation this time. It wasn't just the timing, it was the context. The story didn't feel like a mid-season roster adjustment. It felt like a strategic shift aimed at reviving interest in a season slipping away. Again, none of this is confirmed, but when a move breaks tradition and creates instant conversation, people look for motives beyond the playbook. And that's why so many believe this decision may have been influenced as much by the owner's suite as the coaching staff. The quarterback change didn't just shake up the depth chart, it reshaped the careers and emotions of the two people at the center of it, Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. Because this wasn't just a football adjustment, it was a personal turning point for both quarterbacks in very different ways. For Gabriel, the situation is especially difficult. He didn't lose the starting job because of poor performance. He didn't struggle in practice or fall behind in a competition. He simply suffered an injury, recovered, and returned to find the opportunity gone. For a veteran quarterback in the NFL, that can be a harsh reality to digest. Fans and analysts pointed out that Gabriel was supposed to be the starter this season. Now he's being asked to take on a backup role with no clear path back. And while he'll stay professional, as every player is expected to, there's an emotional weight to being replaced without playing your way off the field. On the other side, Sanders isn't stepping into a normal opportunity either. He isn't just being asked to start games. He's being asked to carry a franchise, energize a fan base, and potentially change the direction of a season. Reports and discussions from around the league have highlighted how difficult that can be for a young quarterback. Every pass will be judged more critically. Every decision will be dissected. Some people believe the expectations may be just as heavy as the job itself. And then there's the locker room dynamic. Teammates notice when changes like this happen. They understand when a move goes against the usual rhythm of competition. They also understand the pressure that follows. Some players might see this as a bold move. Others might see it as an unexpected disruption. Either way, it forces everyone in the building to adjust. That's why this story goes deeper than depth charts and coaching decisions. These aren't just roster moves. These are career-altering moments for two players who both believe they earn the right to lead a team. Gabriel is fighting to hold on to his place. Sanders is fighting to prove he deserves the opportunity. And the season may define both of them. The moment the quarterback switch was announced, with tension shifted to Kevin Stefanski and the rest of the locker room. Because this didn't feel like a coach casually tweaking a lineup. It felt like a turning point that may have changed how the team views the structure inside the building. When Stefanski addressed the media, his tone wasn't hesitant or uncertain. It sounded like a decision that was already finalized, not debated. And that raised an interesting question among fans and analysts. How much control did the coaching staff actually have here? Stefanski spoke about preparation, communication, and momentum. But the way he delivered those answers made some observers believe he was simply confirming a decision rather than presenting one. Online discussions pointed out that his comments didn't include the usual phrases coaches use in a transition like this. No talk of open competition, shared reps, or an evaluation period. Just one quarterback moving forward. That led to speculation about whether the decision had been influenced by voices above him. The locker room dynamic becomes critical in a moment like this. Players read between the lines. They know when a move aligns with football strategy and when it breaks from tradition. Some teammates may welcome the change, believing Sanders brings new energy and upside. Others might see it as a disruption or an example of how fast the landscape can shift for any player. Either way, it alters the internal atmosphere. For a coach, credibility is built on consistency and fairness. When a starting quarterback returns healthy and still doesn't regain the job, it introduces uncertainty. Players start wondering who's really making the calls. They start questioning whether future decisions will be based on performance or something else entirely. None of this is confirmed, of course, but perception matters in professional sports. And the perception here is that the coaching staff may not have been the only voice in the room. This isn't just a test for Sanders or Gabriel. It's a test for Stefanski and the entire locker room, forcing everyone to navigate new expectations and a new leadership dynamic. This quarterback decision didn't happen in a vacuum. It tapped into a larger pattern that fans and analysts have been talking about for years. The idea that the Browns keep getting pulled into dramatic shifts instead of building steady progress. Whether fair or not, that perception has followed the franchise for a long time, and the Sanders move only amplified it. When you look back at recent seasons, there's been a recurring cycle. A new plan gets put in place, excitement builds, and then the organization pivots just as things start to settle. Sometimes it's coaching changes, sometimes it's the roster, sometimes it's the quarterback position. That's why this moment feels familiar to people who follow the team closely. The Browns had experienced this pattern of searching for a spark instead of letting something develop over time. And this latest move fits into the narrative fans have discussed for years. Sports media pointed out that the NFL is built around stability. The most successful franchises are the ones that avoid emotional decisions and allow young talent to grow without constant pressure. But when a team responds quickly to outside noise, ticket sales, or momentum, it raises the question many fans are asking. Are the Browns trying to build for the future, or are they trying to survive the present? Some analysts believe this is why Cleveland has struggled to establish a consistent identity. When big decisions appear to come from multiple directions instead of a single unified vision, it becomes harder for players and coaches to settle into a clear path. And that's where the Sanders move feels bigger than just one depth chart change. It symbolizes the ongoing challenge the franchise has faced, balancing long-term development with short-term urgency. Again, none of this is definitive, but the perception surrounding the team keeps coming back to the same idea. Every time the Browns make a bold move, it becomes another chapter in a pattern that fans recognize immediately. And for many people, this quarterback switch wasn't just a decision. It was another reminder of how fragile the foundation in Cleveland can feel. This quarterback decision didn't just change who starts on Sunday. It changed the stakes for the entire franchise. Because once the Browns committed to Shedeur Sanders, they weren't just betting on a player. They were betting on a narrative. And now every game becomes a test of whether that gamble pays off or collapses under pressure. If Sanders thrives, the story shifts immediately. The Browns found a spark. The locker room rallies around the new direction, and the move gets framed as bold instead of reckless. The organization can point to results and say the risk was worth taking. But even in the best-case scenario, the conversation won't disappear. Fans and analysts will still wonder whether the decision was made for football reasons or something bigger. And if the gamble doesn't work, the consequences expand quickly. Gabriel's confidence and trust in the franchise could be shaken. The locker room may question how decisions are being made. The coaching staff could end up answering for a choice they might not have fully controlled, and the franchise would find itself dealing with the same questions that have followed it for years: stability, leadership, and direction. That's what makes this situation so delicate. Sanders isn't just stepping into a normal starting role. He's stepping into a spotlight that arrived faster than anyone expected. His performances won't just be evaluated on mechanics or stats. They'll be interpreted as proof of whether the entire organization made the right move. Every mistake will feel magnified. Every big moment will escalate the stakes. The rest of the league is watching too. Other teams notice when a franchise makes an aggressive change that breaks tradition. They notice when ownership is rumored to be involved. They notice when a young quarterback is handed the reins before the story fully develops. This isn't just another headline buried in the season. It's a move that could affect free agents, coaching searches, and how the Browns are viewed across the NFL. That's why this isn't just a depth chart adjustment. It's a high-stakes gamble with real consequences, and the Browns will be living with the results long after this week's game is over. Period. The Browns didn't just make a quarterback change. They set off a chain reaction that reshaped every storyline around the franchise. And what makes this moment so compelling is that the consequences reach far beyond who takes the first snap next week. This move forced everyone around the team, players, coaches, fans, and the NFL world, to ask a bigger question. What direction is Cleveland actually headed? The decision to go with Shedeur Sanders may turn into the moment everything changes. If it works, the franchise could finally find the leader it's been searching for. Sanders has the potential, the confidence, and the spotlight to energize an organization that needed something different. And if he delivers, people will look back at this move as the turning point. Some will say the Browns made the bold choice when others wouldn't. But the risk is just as real as the reward. If things go wrong, the fallout stretches far beyond one position. The locker room could feel the strain. Gabriel's future becomes uncertain. Coaching stability gets questioned. And the speculation about who truly shapes this team only grows louder. Fans and analysts are already debating whether this was driven by football strategy or outside pressure. No one knows for sure, but the perception alone creates tension that won't simply fade away. This isn't a normal quarterback controversy. It's a crossroads. It's one of those decisions that changes how a franchise is viewed, both inside and outside the building. And that's why so many people are watching what happens next. Sanders isn't just being asked to play well. He's being asked to prove that this direction leads somewhere better. He's carrying more than expectations. He's carrying the momentum and the narrative of the entire season. So the question isn't just whether the Browns made the right choice. It's whether this becomes the moment they finally break the pattern that has followed them for years. Or whether it becomes another reminder of how fragile their foundation can be. Either way, one thing is clear. Cleveland just stepped into a new era, and everyone is waiting to see where it leads.